And George Mui will introduce his 4 outstanding speakers.
Sorry, I only have 3 on my list.
どうぞ。
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Go. I call her May, but in this professional environment, I need to call her Dr. Go. Otherwise, Todd will have talk to me. But let me open this panel by saying thank you. Thank you for Dr. Go for continuing to invite me back, even though I'm somewhat a troublemaker everywhere I go. And one of the contexts of this conference that I love the most is her way of extending a personal welcome to everyone, including me. The highest ranking non-management at the White House Initiative for Asian American. My first assignment was to come here to replace my predecessor. And not knowing exactly what this conference was about, to now, 10 years later, I'm back. And not only because I like the context of the conference, doing Business Asia, which is my specialty in my job at the U.S. Department of Commerce, but it's also the personal relationship I have built over the years. And not only did I come to support her, she actually took delegations to Washington, D.C. when I'm doing the event. I had the pleasure of setting up a APEX SME Summit in Atlanta. Dr. Go also bring her network to it. But let me begin by saying that, Dr. Go, I'm not sure how I could get to call Honorable George Mui. Next time we come.
Next time.
But I do have the pleasure of working with APAC in 2015. And thank you, Matt Murray, for coming. Is Matt here? I don't have my glasses. Okay. Thanks for coming. And I have to tell you, I worked with a lot of government officials in the past. Not too many people spend the time extending themselves into the community and actually meeting with businesses. So thank you. And you do now know why I love Sue Koo. Where's Sue? Honorable Ms. Shao. I actually had the pleasure of leading 4 delegations in China. Every time I go to China, there's always somebody at CCPITT there to support us as an American delegation. Thank you. So the format is pretty simple. Like Dr. Go said, we want to try to take it light, and I expect my speakers to have a little more energy. So what I'm going to ask each one of them to do after the introduction is just give a few minutes about themselves, the company, and their thoughts on the global trend in manufacturing or global trend in business, so that you have a context to think about of what apply or not apply to you. Then you ask the appropriate question that's meaningful to you. Now, you don't ask this question. I actually have a long list of questions from Dr. Go like in class, but my belief in moderating a panel is not really what we want to tell you, is what you want to know from us based on the conversation you have with these 4 distinguished speakers. And I generally don't like to spend all the time reading the bio, even though I saw a long list of accomplishments. So I'm just going to introduce you by your name, and I have to let you know, I don't get here as a moderator because I know how to pronounce name correctly. So excuse me. First, I'm going to go from that side on. Well, you guys not lining up, call it this. I'm going to go, I call it my list. Mr. Alan Yu-Chin Lin, the CEO of Winmate Incorporated. Care to share with the audience?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
You gotta say louder with some more excitement.
Hello. Thank you to be invited me, and it's my honor to share my experience. So my name is Alan. So I work for the company called Winmate, which is headquartered in Taiwan, and I've been working there for 10 years. And 5 years ago, I moved to Atlanta to building the branch office and also the operation center and also the warehouse distribution center here. And the company is working for the industrial computers. And I'm also the chairman of the Montreal organization, which is the innovative platform for the focus on Asian American, which is including the technical people business professional and also the graduate student and researcher. So I'm sharing some maybe three major challenges from my side and also my perspective when seeing this kind of when doing the business as global business. So the first one is I think everybody know about the globalization. It's benefit by the high-speed internet and also everybody can work from everywhere in the globe and you can make your business 24 hours per day. But I think you know it's also another very strong power about the globalization is like a geopolitical issue, some tension. So the first challenge for the business is how you to be balanced between this globalization trend and also the globalization trend. And my suggestion is mostly like company probably need to be doing some transformation. You cannot just do the international trading. You need to be a truly international, global organization. And when I mean the global organization, it's not just to have a factory in Asia and have a sales office in North America. You need to be build it, for example, in the US, you need to build it sales office, but you also need to have a technical people, product people, service people, and also you need to have a local manufacturing in the US. And this is the first perspective on the big view. And then the second view is when you are building this kind of organization, you probably need to be, everybody notice that language will be a barrier. But what I mean to say is there's much more, it's like an iceberg. That's the language is just the very tip of it. You need to be noticed that.
Melissa Takeuchi?
Totally wrong.
Thank you. How do you pronounce it?
Takeuchi.
Takeuchi. You know, the only reason why you're here on this panel, you know why?
Why? Because
Stella is actually here. Stella was on my panel last year. So she said, enough of you, George. I'm gonna send somebody else.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
So Melissa, I want to share your own story and some key points.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for having me. Since we're at a university, I wanted to start with a little bit of personal background. I am a native of Georgia. I'm from Conyers, Georgia. And did I say really? That's right.
Right, nobody is a native of Georgia? What's the matter? Who's a native of Georgia?
Unicorns now.
Come on, who is the native? That's it? Where are you people?
Well, it's because the state of Georgia is great. Everyone's moving here. And I went to college, and in college I studied a double major in international affairs and economics. And that is where I started studying Japanese my sophomore year. Started Japanese, I studied abroad, and then after I graduated, I went to Japan on the JET program, Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. Actually, Miss Jessica Cork sent me there. I stayed and lived in Japan for 6 years, and when I came back, I got a job at a Japanese manufacturing company down south of the airport, Toppan Inter-America in McDonough. And did that for 2 years, and then I got a job to work at the Japanese consulate for 8 years, and then I got offered this job a little over 2 years ago. So, native Georgian, and I've used my Japanese skills really for, gosh, I don't want to age myself, but for 22 years I have been using Japanese, and certainly would like to.
No worry, you stand next to the guy, 70 years old, okay?
Oh,
so
okay. Well,
there's no way you can deal.
But the importance of that, and I'll talk more about that later. But as far as what our department does, I want to speak a little bit about the Georgia Department of Economic Development. So we are, of course, part of the state government, and we're sort of the sales and marketing arm of the government. Our job is to promote Georgia, and our main focus is bringing quality jobs to Georgians. And that is in a variety of forms, including global commerce, which is my division, but also trade, tourism, film, the arts, marketing and international engagement. So anything that could possibly bring a job to Georgia, we sort of are involved in that. And into global commerce is what I'm in, is we focus on bringing new investment to the state of Georgia. And that could be expansions, which is a huge part of the growth of the state, including companies like YKKAP, and as well as bringing new jobs, new companies, excuse me. My job specifically is bringing those new companies to the state of Georgia. And while I work with companies from all over the world as well as domestic, I focus on Japanese investment. So I have a lot of knowledge of the Japanese presence in the state of Georgia, and I try to bring more companies to the state, and I'm also very involved in the Japanese community, and I see a lot of my friends and colleagues here. We're like a little family, the local Georgia-Japan connection, but that's my job. So I am working hard every day to bring more jobs to the state and try to bring more Japanese companies as well.
Thank you.
Oh, and sorry, did you want me to speak about challenges and trends?
We'll do that next.
We'll do that next, all right.
Next, I am going to need some help with this name. Mesei Okura? Totally wrong.
Well, I go by either Masa or
Masa?
Masae.
Masae?
In Japanese, it's
It sounds
Masae
Spanish.
Okura.
Okura.
But because I grew up in Canada.
I said they didn't pay me to pronounce the name correctly.
Yeah, Masa Okura is fine.
Masa.
Masa Okura, yeah.
From project manager at
Nope.
Connor, Taylor, English, and Duma.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, like Melissa did her introduction, so I just want to talk about like myself, a little bit of my background. So I thought my name was Masa because I grew up in Canada and everyone called me Masa, so I thought that was my name. And because my father immigrated to Canada when I was 2 years old, so I didn't really speak any languages when I was 2. And when I went back to Japan at 7.5, and then everyone's calling me Masai-chan, Masai-chan, so I was like, who's that? And then I realized my name is not Masa, it's Masae.
Masa.
My background is I was born in Fukuoka, Japan. I don't know if you know Fukuoka, but that's where tonkotsu ramen is from. So I'm very picky about tonkotsu ramen. So all these ramen stores, like, yeah, none of them may pass our judgment. But that's where I'm from the southern part of Japan, which is very laid back, so it's very different from Tokyo or Osaka. We're very slow in time, and we have like cows and stuff like that. Right. And then when I was 2 years old, my mother married my father because my mother is from a merchant's family, and her parents wanted her to marry someone who would not play around but just, keep her in the house. So it was arranged marriage, and she married my father, who is from a samurai family. So even if there's the same Japanese samurai family and merchant family, and her mother's side is a farmer's family, extremely different people. They have different values, they do things differently, they're very, very different. My father's all about discipline, helping people. My mother's all about buying good food, buying good clothes, and staying in a good place, or bribing teachers, so they were like totally two different people. And then, not known to my mother's family side, my father was secretly planning on immigrating to Canada. So one day he told my mother that, okay, I got the visa, so we're all immigrating to Canada. So we're like, what? And then in my hometown, no one went out of our hometown at that time. So when he decided to go to Canada, immigrate to Canada, and then I just look at all the pictures, but everyone from the town is on the platform at the train station, and they're saying, "Banzai, banzai, banzai," "Wansui, wansui, wansui." You say it 3 times in Japanese. But that's the kind of time we left Japan. And then my mother wanted to come back to Japan where she had all her family. So
helps a lot in international business, regardless what country you go to business with. Okay, thank you for sharing. I'm not sure I was expecting that, but that was great. And it's perfect for after lunch. Last but not least, I can pronounce his name correctly, John Weston? Weston. Now, I'm not sure I pronounced the company correctly. Founder of Yurek Geo Energy. Want to share your story? Born in Japan, raised in
Born on a boat in Kennesaw Island. No, actually, my background is very diverse. I was a
CEO of a actually Guangdong company. So we were in 50 countries, and basically I don't speak Mandarin, I don't speak Cantonese, but I speak Mononese. Okay, so we took that company from zero to a couple $1 billion, and what was really interesting the first time I really was put into the Chinese culture, I didn't realize what a Hmong was versus a Cantonese, and I got to learn, I couldn't tell the difference in look. But I started understanding the different groups would sit with each other at lunch. So I did a very intelligent thing, and I hired a Taiwanese who spoke Cantonese, and it gave me the ability to know what they were talking about. Because think about it, I'm from Texas. I'm in an office with 900 people working for me, and I don't speak a lick of Mandarin or Cantonese. So Steinway Wong was my president of my company, and I really fell in love with the Chinese culture while I was there. And we took that company into 50 countries. So we ended up with about 1,900 employees. And even before I met my wife, she was a distributor for that company.
You pointed to her or something?
The beautiful lady in the red right there.
Stand up, beautiful lady.
Yeah. So it's funny. I mean, this is a true story. Not as colorful. But the point is, it's funny, she was a distributor in that company. And when I came to Hawaii years ago, I actually made the statement, well, I used to be CEO of that company. Her and her friends went to the closet and pulled the liver strap. Oh my God! And I'm like, I wasn't making it up. I'm a black man who ran a $1 billion Chinese company. And so again, that's where international trade, it doesn't matter who you are. You know, and with the ability to understand globalization is localization today. So back in the day, we'd have 50, 60 containers on the water. If you remember the Chinese sea storm, we lost 40 of our containers in that time years ago. So I know what it's like when the chain breaks down. One of the things we have adjusted since I've been out in the world is we're incorporating a lot of blockchain technology for accurate accounting. So one of the things about having open source is you cannot have off-book records. So in the future, if you're going to be in the manufacturing, distribution business, you need to have a secure platform first, and then you have to have accurate accountability. Now, the whole AI thing, don't even ask. I mean, again, I was in the military, and we taught psychological warfare out of Fort Benning. So again, ChatGPT ain't for me. So that's all I can say.
It might be for your kids.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful story. Let me offer this piece of advice. There are a lot of Chinese with a lot of African Americans with Chinese heritage.
Chafricans. No, that's true. There's third generation Chafricans in mid-Sub-Saharan. Look, if anybody here used shea butter, it was our company 22 years ago who imported the first shea butter out of mid-Sub-Saharan.
Wow.
So if you look at a company called Nubian Heritage out of Amityville, that's one of the companies I was on the board of. So if you're wearing shea butter today, then hope it works for you.
Thank you. So you can see that we have 4 distinguished speakers with a variety of background, cultures, understanding. And I have a list of questions I could start with, but I think it might be good we could start getting to know what's on your mind. So are there any mics somewhere?
Yes, 2 mics.
2 mics. So if you could come up, ask questions.
Fantastic panel, all the satisfaction which you are providing or giving it to your end customer with your workforce.
Great question.
That's a really good question. One of the things about running an international company is you have to understand to compartmentalize. The problem most people who run businesses, unfortunately, they tend to want to be all things to everyone. That is where you fail in business. If you study the ants, every ant has a job. No ant does what another ant does. Same thing with bees. So again, we have a natural example of structure. And on the international side, the political environment is the only thing you have to keep out of your business. So if you have a shipping relationship like the problems we have in Los Angeles port right now, it's smarter to hire a consultant company to get your products to port than try to do it yourself. So in the world today, delegation makes us a flat earth. Versus in the old days, you would hire hundreds of employees and have that department responsible for things such as importing, exporting. It's smarter now to delegate. There's so many professional companies that can reduce your overhead that will do a better job than an employee, and that's what I know, I believe.
Thank you so much. I got my answer.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dominic. I'm a student at Kennesaw State University as a business administration and information systems major. I'd like to thank you all for your very informational and also entertaining discussions so far. And although the panels on the global manufacturing and business trends is this idea of working with different cultures causing a barrier. Specifically, Mr. Alan Lin was speaking about that. And also, at the same time, the beauties and the variety that can come out of working with different cultures. So that brings me to my question: how do I, as a potential, person in an international business someday, how do I, and how have you made it so that you get how you get the benefits of international culture and not the limitations of the barriers of an international business, global business?
Wow, your question is longer than some of the speeches. But I do have to say, congratulations, Dr. Go. You have students that were insightful, observant. They were actually listening to ask these type of questions. So I'm going to ask Alan to address this question, if I may.
Yep. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think for my situation is just my personal situation is that just to first to aware this difference and try to we normally talk about how are you come from, try to accept and understand, respect this difference. And I think this is also to be, I think it's just perceive it as your gift to be knowing something you never know, and to be try to embrace them and try to turn that into your asset. I think that's my personal experience and the point of view. Maybe some other panels here can have a minute to answer it.
Yeah.
Maybe one more answer?
And sure, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think taking those experiences, making them a plus for sure. But for me personally, so I grew up in Georgia. I did not grow up in an international environment, international anything really. And going to college, going to Washington, D.C., where I went to school, was just shocking to me in a good way. But coming back to Georgia, after studying abroad, after living in Japan, I came back to a very different Georgia because of by choice. I could have stayed in that non-international side of things. You certainly can stay in that lane. But I chose to reach out to the Japan America Society. That was my like a month or so after I came back from Japan, I went to Japan Fest. And this was in 2010, so needless to say, jobs were few and far between. I didn't have a job for about 6 months. And I had homemade meishi, business cards. And I handed it out to all the Japanese companies. And lo and behold, I got a call back, and they needed someone to help with bilingual translation and also multicultural knowledge at Japan Interamerica, which is where I got a job. So choose to expose yourself to those international cultures. Go out of your way to get those experiences. It's going to be difficult sometimes. It's going to be uncomfortable sometimes, but you're going to grow from it. And that's what I would recommend. Be proactive about it.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any? You have the most interesting background. So
I just want to add, last year, Professor Megal and our Japan Chamber of Commerce held an internship session together, because you have more than 400 students learning Japanese, major or minor, and we have more than 600 Japanese companies here in Georgia.
Wow.
So we were trying to hook the students up with our Georgia Japanese companies, and that is a very good opportunity to get into a Japanese company to learn, because those are, if you go into an internship, you're going to learn real stuff. It's not going to be on the textbook. You're going to learn a lot of stuff outside of the textbook, and that's going to be a very good experience, and not only inside of work office. Like I was giving a speech to her master's degree students last week, was it, and for the communication students. But I would recommend you to go out with them after work hours, because especially, I can only speak on behalf of Japanese companies, but Japanese company work, the employees usually go out together after the work hours. So maybe have a line, or we can go golfing or go hiking or together, and that's when you would see a different personality, and that's when you really get to know your co-workers. So I would say, just like Melissa said, go out, internship, and study abroad program. I did study abroad in China, in Guangzhou, and Beijing. I think it was an eye-opening experience. I was exposed to things I did not see in Japan or Canada. So I think my personality changed dramatically after I came back from China.
English Duma.
Watch out, lawyer.
And my practice focuses on real estate development and construction. And obviously during the pandemic, right, for construction, manufacturing, the big issue was, who is dealing with the risk here, right? So, I mean, before the pandemic, right, as attorneys, every day for me is risk allocation. So I'm curious, in your companies or in how you advise different companies, if you've seen a shift in sort of risk allocation, particularly for manufacturing companies, and also thinking about sort of that cultural differences and cultural aspect, right? I think America is very litigious, right? We definitely have that, I think, reputation across the world, maybe compared to other countries. So do you find that risk allocation, in America, doing business here is a little different than maybe doing business in Asia, and how, kind of the risk gets allocated there and shifted?
John, you want to take that?
Yeah. One of the reasons I'm here is because I've been coming to SAUPO since 2012, and I've always admired May. So one of the reasons our company's here today is we're going to be relocating, looking for a 100,000 square feet facility to start manufacturing in Georgia. So we're going to need a lot of help, but we are manufacturing in Singapore, and we've literally stayed out of the United States on purpose. No disrespect, I'm an ex-military guy, so don't even ask what side of the aisle I'm on. The point is that we stayed out because our company actually creates electricity from compressed air. 1 megawatt, 100 megawatts, gigawatt, it doesn't matter. So the last administration, which, wasn't friendly towards things like what we have, we stayed out of the United States. So it caused an environment for us to stay offshore. We've now we've got a potential building in Las Vegas because the atmosphere in America is more friendly towards our green energy. So literally, even this building here, with our technology, we could actually replace 92% of the electricity in less than 90 days. 100% self-sustained. That's why we stayed out of the United States. So we're coming to Georgia as our first office and plant, bringing the technology here.
Japanese management, but everything's done. I can't speak in this session because there's a long list of things that are so different. But yes, so I think you guys, Asian Studies students, would be a perfect people to bridge the gap.
Can I also add, I would like to say that at least with Japanese companies, which again, that's what I'm most familiar with, they tend to be really good corporate citizens. They have a reputation around the state. It actually makes my job quite easy when I have a Japanese company that comes to me and I'm looking around the state, all 159 counties. They're all our children. And when I say, hey, this is a Japanese company, they're like, okay, we want them. Because they're known for being good employers and being involved in the community. And it's interesting, sometimes I'll go to visit one of these companies and it'll be in a pretty rural community. And the employees, the local employees are Southern. They're like my family, right? So they talk like this, and they like to, they're real excited to work for a Japanese company. And they take on Japanese mannerisms. It's really interesting. So they do blend those cultures. They'll be like, oh, thank you so much, things like that. And I'm thinking, what are you? So it's interesting. You do blend those cultures, but I do think that's a perfect opportunity for Asian studies students. You have that knowledge, you have that experience, and the companies will need that support for sure.
Great. Any other question from the audience? Oh, sorry, the light is shining. I'm a movie star, so I'm used to light, but that's really strong.
Hi, my name is Michael Glover. I'm an international relations major at KSU. So I understand that boundaries and trust are going to differ across like cultures, and the standard for how you handle them is going to differ. But how do you decide when to prioritize building trust and compromise versus enforcing healthy boundaries in a company?
Good question. I'm going to ask Alan, since you've been quiet.
Sure. I'm just ready to wait on the line. Yeah. I think that the building the trust is very, very important and high priority for my personal view is to do the business. I think that we talk about a lot of digitalization, artificial intelligence, but building the trust is still very important for the business. And it's still there's the company is a group of people, and your customer is also another group of people. And how to make this building a trust is I think that's the most important thing.
Okay. They also want to take a crack at that? Maybe one more?
Yeah, and me too. With like doing business with Japanese companies, the trust has to come first. So when we go to like a meeting for the first time with clients, and then my American partners would be anxious to get the deal done or get this piece of paper signed, right? I said, hold on, not that fast. Let's talk about like what food they like, or like look for something that's in common. You know, one time I had my partners were eager, but the Japanese clients from a very rural area in Japan doesn't know anything about a foreign country. And we found out that, well, my partner said, well, I have a boat in Tennessee. And then she said, oh, I have a boat too in Japan. I said, oh, you kept him. Wow, deal's done. You got the paper signed. Try to look for something in common, and wine is a very important thing in Japan. People would take you out for dinner and have wine, and then if they feel comfortable with you, then you start talking business. So trust has to come first.
Yeah, I once landed a $40 million contract on a fishing boat.
Hello again. So as a proud EV car owner, we all try to save our planet. So my question is for John. I wanted to know if your company have innovative technology can help our charging situation, especially between the state and also locally. Thank you.
Right, automobile run from compressed air?
Well, that's a good question. If anybody has a cell phone or laptop, why don't you go to a website called aliensmotors.com.
Huh?
aliensmotors.com. We're manufacturing our own car line in India right now. So one of the reasons that we're coming to America to do a power grid upgrade first in one of our phases is that the grid is in California. I use an example. California's grid was built in 1952 to 1979, the last time the wires were updated. So right now, part of the reason that even though there's a mandate for 500,000 fast chargers, I'm going to give you a real reality check. In America, it's averaging 90 to 120 days to get a approval through a code enforcement department for one DC fast charger. So you multiply that times 500,000, it means it's going to take you 17,000 days to get 500,000 fast chargers installed. So that's why we have to come here, because at the end of the day, the power grid can't support what's been put on the initiative. 2035 in California has now been adopted by the United States. All the motor companies have put $558 billion because they know you cannot, after 2035, manufacture a gas vehicle or a diesel car anymore. So all of you might as well get an EV in your life. It's coming. So our focus is, our phase is to bring electricity that doesn't cause the grid to have rolling blackouts. So there is a record in January. There are more tornadoes in America in January than the history of, this is our home. I am not buying a ticket with Elon Musk to go to Mars. Brother's already got a suntan.
I'll get drawn again. Well,
brag on the state a little bit. So we are actually in the state growing faster every day. The state recognizes how important the EV market is. It's become a big focus of the state. We landed Hyundai Motors, that was Hyundai and the battery. SK, I don't know if it's still here, SK is one of our large EV battery manufacturers, and their suppliers are coming as well. The entire supply chain is coming to Georgia. The batteries, the battery components, cathodes, anodes. I didn't even know what that word was until.
See, look, I'm not in the economic development department, but we're coming to Georgia because we got a lot of friends rolling across that line. Ain't for the peaches. Okay. So again, I'm all about economic development, but why would my company go somewhere that's not going to be the #1 EV battery supplier in America, the #1 EV concentration locations based on population in America? So we've done our homework.
Great.
Everyone's
This message is brought to you by the state of Georgia.
Well, with that,
30 seconds from each one of the panels, a takeaway for our audience. 30 seconds.
Yes, 30 seconds.
Get on.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I think this question is very deeply, and I think hopefully these events give you some benefit about thinking about we talk about the global change on the energy transformation, but also for yourself we talk about the cross-cultural communication, and not just the language barrier, we talk about some enlarge your comfort zone and talk to set different kind of lifestyle, and also maybe invest in yourself into the different kind of culture and sharing some culture together.
Excellent.
So this comment is also brought to you by the state of Georgia. Just want to let, especially the young people, know that the jobs are here in Georgia. They really are. If you want to do your advanced manufacturing jobs, those are fantastic jobs. I know it mentioned earlier that they can be dirty and messy. That was the image years ago. They're amazing jobs. They're stable jobs, and they're high-paying jobs. But you also have your fintech jobs. You got your high technology. We need more educated people. Like, we absolutely need. Your jobs are here. You don't need to leave the state. So just keep that in mind as you get ready to graduate.
So the employment line for Melissa is over there. It doesn't have to be students. Maybe I'll go apply for a job. Okay, thank you.
Well, I deal with a lot of human resources of Japanese companies, and there is, even before COVID, there has been a shortage of engineers and even low-level technicians. And most of the Japanese company would like to hire someone who speaks Japanese or even understands Asian cultures. And I would encourage Kennesaw State University students to take advantage of Professor Megao's study abroad program, and also in the Japanese community through the consulate there's a thing called JET program. So the government would pay for you, JET program, the alumni. So the government would pay for you to teach English in Japan for 1 year, and I think you're allowed to extend it, right?
Up to 5 years.
Oh, 5 years, okay. So a lot of students go to Japan and stay, and they just cut back on expense, and they just save the money and come back, right? And then I hear that a lot of students go to graduate school, go to law school, or could find a job with the state government, or work in the Japanese companies, and those are the kind of people that Japanese company really needs. Like someone who understands Asian culture. It could be an engineer, it could be a coordinator, right? To Kennesaw State University students, yes. Please take advantage of your youth. If I were younger, I would go out again. Too bad I can't, but yeah.
All right, John, last word.
I appreciate everybody being here, and I appreciate SAUPO doing such a great job over the years. And it's just great to be back home with the team here. But I am looking for someone who knows anybody with a building. We want to set up a beta site in the next 60 days to show how we can light up a building with green energy with no connection to the grid. So if anybody knows someone owns a building and want to set a beta site up, shoot commercials here in Georgia, that's a state endorsement, and basically use it for going forward to open up a manufacturing facility here with your permission. Thank you.
Jim, where are you? Jim, you have a building? You can find one. The answer needs to be yes. Okay, with that, I'm going to invite Dr. Go to come up. We're going to do one last thing.
Of Commerce in Georgia. and they're in charge of over 600 Japanese companies. And Mr. Are-san and I, and also I would like to recognize Ms. Takako Fujiwara-san. Ms. Takako Fujiwara-san. So these two outstanding community partners that have helped me to organize Japanese companies hiring KSU Asian Studies interns seminar. From there, we generate a lot of paid and unpaid internships for KSU students who speak Japanese of all majors. So thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Sounds like the next SAUPO need to be in Japan.
Yes.
Hispanic online grocery delivery company here in the U.S. We are aiming to serving all the underserved ethnic minority communities here in the U.S. I know that no matter where we are right now, and no matter where we're gonna go in the future, we all keeping the taste bud that we're growing up with. So even though right now we as here in the U.S. and we come from all the way from our hometown, we're still looking for the food that we're familiar with. And here we are aiming to providing those ethnic groceries to you, and we have it to deliver to your doors. As long as you place the order with us 1 p.m. every day, and we'll get the grocery box to be at your home the next day. So cheers, everybody.
And then I would like to introduce to you Dr. Carrie Conwell, Dean of KSU Journey Honors College. Her college is a gold sponsor for.
Thank you so much, At the KSU Journey Honors College, we have the privilege of having students from across all of the academic colleges. So some of the best students across campus are also honors students. And we are fine-tuning our curriculum to focus on students who are lifelong learners, who are collaborative leaders, and who are civic scholars with a sense of the need to give back to communities both local and globally. And so I'm just delighted to be here. I encourage my students, and a couple students here today, to think about networking, to think about how they tell their story, to think about cultural difference. And so I'm just delighted to be collaborating in this conference.